Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Her pulse skipped as his hand brushed hers, not accidental, not casual, but deliberate enough to send a shiver racing up her arm. She pulled in a sharp breath, pretending to focus on the half-empty wine glass on the table, though her heart betrayed her with its quickening beat. The air between them felt heavier than it had just seconds ago, as if every unsaid word and every hidden desire now lingered in the silence. He leaned closer, his voice a low murmur against her ear. "You're trembling." His tone wasn't mocking, it was daring, teasing, laced with a quiet challenge. She swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how close his lips were, how easily he could close that last inch. The warmth of his breath lingered, drawing her deeper into the moment she swore she wouldn't let happen. Her eyes flicked up, meeting his. That gaze, steady, unblinking, piercing, held her still like a hand pressed firmly against her back. She should have looked away. She didn't. Instead, she felt the heat rise in her cheeks, her body betraying her with a rush of anticipation. Then came the subtle shift. His fingers brushed her wrist, trailing slow and possessive before slipping upward, settling just below her elbow. It was nothing more than a touch, yet it set fire to her skin, made her want to lean closer and retreat all at once. "Stop," she whispered, though her voice lacked conviction. Her breath caught the moment he tilted his head, lips hovering near hers but not quite daring to claim. The silence stretched, pulsing with tension, her chest rising and falling as if every heartbeat were an answer she couldn't give out loud. His hand tightened slightly, holding her in place, not forceful, not yet, but enough that she felt the weight of his presence pressing in. And just when she thought he would pull away, that he might release her arm and let the air cool between them, he leaned in that final inch. The screen fades to black, leaving only the echo of her racing heartbeat. The air in the room still hummed with the unspoken moment, though neither of them mentioned it. She turned her face away first, pretending to adjust the strap of her dress, pretending the heat on her skin wasn't from his touch. He sat back slowly, as though savoring the retreat, his lips curving into a smile that was neither soft nor cruel, just knowing. That smile had always unsettled her. They were husband and wife, bound by vows and years, yet lately it felt as though they were strangers orbiting the same space. The laughter they once shared had thinned into polite conversation. Evenings ended with closed doors, the glow of their phones separating them more than walls ever could. And still, in stolen moments like this, something electric sparked, something dangerous, something she couldn't name. She remembered the way he used to look at her when they first married, as if she were both mystery and answer. That gaze had faded over time, lost under the weight of bills, schedules, and unspoken disappointments. Yet tonight, over half-finished wine and lingering silence, she saw that look again. And it terrified her. Her heart tugged with a mix of longing and resistance. Because behind that desire lived a shadow. She knew he wanted her, but not always in ways that left her at ease. There was a hunger in him, one she didn't fully understand, one that made her pulse race not just from attraction but from fear of where it might lead. "Do you ever think we've forgotten how to talk?" she asked suddenly, her voice softer than she intended, fragile as glass. His eyes flicked toward her, the faintest glimmer of something unreadable passing through them. He reached for his glass, swirling the wine as though it held the answer. "Talking isn't what we've forgotten." The words landed between them with weight, stirring the quiet into something heavier. She clenched her fingers against her lap, unsure if she should challenge him or stay silent. The ache in her chest told her she wanted more than half answers. She wanted to be seen again, not as a wife bound by routine, but as the woman who once made his voice falter when he whispered her name. Her breath caught when his hand brushed hers again, slower this time, as though asking for permission without words. She didn't pull away. A current ran through her veins, the kind that left her lightheaded, teetering on the edge of surrender. Every glance, every pause, every half-smile was a thread pulling her back into him, weaving tension through cracks that might never fully mend. Yet beneath the warmth, something darker stirred, a truth neither of them dared speak aloud. The screen fades, leaving the audience suspended between desire and dread. Her voice lingered in the quiet, though she hadn't meant to let it slip out. "Do you ever look at me and think about what's missing?" The words tumbled softer than a confession, yet heavy enough to slice through the silence. His eyes darkened, sharp and intent, and for a moment she wished she could pull the words back. He leaned closer, his chair scraping against the wood, closing the space she had tried to keep between them. "Missing," he repeated, his tone low, edged with something that wasn't quite anger, something hotter, more dangerous. She shifted, her hand twitching against the table. "You don't touch me the way you used to," she whispered. "Not unless," her voice trailed, her breath quickening at the memory she didn't dare put into words. The pause stretched, filled with her pounding heartbeat. He let out a soft laugh, but it wasn't amused, it was sharp, knowing. "And yet here you sit, trembling every time I look at you. Tell me what's really missing." Her lips parted, but no words came. His stare held her still, burning through her defenses. She hated that he was right. Hated how much she craved that dangerous intensity even when it scared her. Then, as if to push her further, he leaned back with deliberate calm, his gaze flicking toward the door. "Or maybe it's that you want someone else to look at you this way." The accusation, soft and poisonous, made her chest tighten. Jealousy. It wasn't a question, it was a weapon. She drew in a shaky breath, her mind flashing to the lingering glances she had caught from others, moments she never acted on, but moments that existed all the same. Her cheeks flushed with guilt and defiance. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't twist this." But his smirk deepened, and his hand slid across the table, claiming hers with quiet possession. "I don't need to twist anything. I can see it in your eyes. You still want me." Her pulse thundered, torn between denying him and surrendering to the truth clawing at her chest. The air thickened with tension, the room shrinking to the space between their locked gazes. Every breath promised that the next moment would tip them past the point of no return. The screen fades, leaving only the echo of her unspoken answer. The house had grown impossibly quiet, every tick of the clock amplifying the tension already straining between them. She moved toward the hallway, intent on creating distance, but his footsteps followed close behind, steady, deliberate, unrelenting. When she stopped, he was already there, the shadow of his frame filling the narrow space. The corridor felt too small, the air too warm. Her back brushed the cool wall, and his hand lifted, pressing against it beside her head, trapping her in a cage that felt both suffocating and intoxicating. Her breath quickened, chest rising and falling as if her body betrayed the words she wanted to say. "You shouldn't," she whispered, though her voice trembled more with want than protest. His eyes searched hers, that steady, burning look that stripped her of every defense. "Then stop me," he murmured, his lips so close she could almost taste the wine lingering on his breath. The space between them pulsed with dangerous energy. Every inch of her body screamed for escape and surrender all at once. She could feel the warmth radiating off him, the quiet power in the way his presence pressed against her without touching. Her hand hovered midair, uncertain whether to push him back or pull him closer. Her heart pounded against her ribs, loud enough that she feared he could hear it. His free hand brushed along her arm, barely grazing, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. That single touch unraveled her composure, and she found herself leaning in despite the voice in her head warning her to resist. "Why do you look at me like you don't want this?" he whispered, "when I can feel that you do." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The silence was its own answer, heavy and undeniable. His smile deepened, not of victory, but of recognition, as though he'd finally cornered a truth she could no longer hide. The moment stretched, breathless, unbearably close. Then the screen fades to black, leaving the audience caught at the edge of the inevitable. 4K Ultra HD AI image prompt, a dramatic cinematic scene of a husband and wife in a narrow, dimly lit hallway. The wife is pressed lightly against the wall, her face flushed with conflicted emotion, half resistance, half longing. The husband looms close, one hand braced beside her head, his gaze locked intensely on her. Warm golden light and deep shadows heighten the intimacy and suspense. Background blurred to focus solely on their nearness, creating a charged, breathless atmosphere that feels on the verge of breaking, safe for storytelling. Would you like me to carry prompt 5 into the actual climax moment, the breaking of restraint, or hold back with one more layer of drawn-out suspense before the fall? You said, prompt 5, climax build plus twist, 500 words, deliver the climax. Reveal a shocking twist, an affair exposed, a hidden desire confessed, or an unexpected betrayal. Keep the scene full of raw emotions, passion, and suspense. Let the attraction be strong and risky, giving viewers the satisfaction they've been waiting for. Write a realistic 4K Ultra HD AI image prompt based on this scene, safe under YouTube policy. Unbound Limitless story writer said, the wall felt cold at her back, but his presence burned hotter than fire before her. His breath lingered close, his eyes unwavering, his body radiating a heat that made it impossible to move. Every fiber in her being screamed that this was the point of no return. Her voice trembled as she finally spoke. You don't know everything. He tilted his head, his smirk curving with quiet confidence. Then tell me. Or let me find out myself. His hand brushed her cheek, fingertips grazing her jawline, and she shuddered. Her heart slammed against her chest as if trying to break free. The secret she'd buried clawed its way to the surface. I've been seeing someone. The words spilled out, sharp and soft all at once, filling the narrow hallway like an explosion. His smile faltered. His hands stilled against the wall. The silence that followed was heavier than any touch. You're lying, he said finally, voice rough, but the flicker of doubt in his eyes betrayed him. She shook her head, tears welling in the corners of her eyes though her voice stayed firm. I wanted to feel alive again. To be wanted. To feel like I mattered. His jaw tightened, a muscle twitching as he pulled back just enough to study her. Anger, disbelief, desire, all twisted together in his expression. And yet here you are. Cornered. Trembling. With me. Her throat tightened. Because you still have a hold on me I can't escape. The words turned the air electric, dangerous. His hand moved from the wall to her waist, gripping firmly as if to remind her who she still belonged to. She gasped, torn between the guilt of her confession and the undeniable pull that tethered her to him. You betrayed me, he said, his voice low, but the hunger in his gaze only deepened. And still, you want me. Her tears slipped free, but she didn't deny it. Her body pressed against the wall, her breath quick, her lips parting as his forehead leaned against hers. Every inch of space disappeared, leaving nothing but raw truth and dangerous longing. For a heartbeat, it felt as though he might break away, leave her standing in the ruins of what she had confessed. Instead, he whispered, then we'll burn together. His lips hovered an inch from hers, the moment teetering on the edge of destruction and surrender. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience breathless, desperate to know whether the kiss sealed forgiveness, punishment, or something far darker. Unbound Limitless story writer said, her confession hung in the air like shattered glass, sharp, impossible to take back. His hand still clutched her waist, his forehead pressed against hers, but the fire between them had changed. It wasn't only desire now, it was anger, betrayal, and something far heavier. She broke first. Pushing against his chest, her voice cracked. I couldn't keep waiting for you to see me. To want me the way you used to. I needed something. His eyes searched hers, stormy, torn between rage and devastation. So you ran to someone else? His tone shook with disbelief, but his grip didn't loosen, as though letting go would mean accepting what she had done. Tears slipped down her cheeks, and she shook her head, voice trembling. I didn't run. I fell. And I don't know how to climb out. The words cut deep, and for a moment, silence consumed the hallway. His chest rose and fell, the sound of his ragged breath filling the void. Then, with sudden force, he stepped back, releasing her. The cold air rushed in, and her body swayed from the absence of his hold. Do you love him? He asked finally, his voice low, broken. Her throat tightened, and she shook her head slowly. No. I love you. But I wanted to feel alive, and he made me forget how empty we'd become. He turned away, his hand dragging across his mouth, as though trying to erase the taste of her words. For the first time in years, his shoulders slumped, not with anger, but with defeat. The silence was unbearable, so she stepped forward, daring to touch his arm. Please, she whispered, don't let this be the end. His eyes closed, pain etched across his face. You burned us, and now you want me to rebuild from ashes. He turned then, staring at her, his gaze raw, stripped of the teasing confidence he always carried. But I still want you. That's the worst part. The weight of his words struck her harder than his touch ever could. She sobbed, burying her face in her hands, until his arms suddenly pulled her against him again, fierce, trembling, desperate. Their bodies clashed, not in anger, but in surrender. His lips hovered near her ear as he whispered, if we're going to survive this, there can't be secrets. Not one more. She nodded into his chest, her tears soaking his shirt. For the first time in months, she felt him holding her like she mattered, like he was terrified to lose her. The scene closes with them clinging to each other in the hallway, caught between devastation and a fragile chance at rebuilding. The future remains uncertain, but the raw, dangerous love that binds them is undeniable. The hallway where they had broken each other open became the place where they chose to rebuild. His arms didn't let her go, even after her sobs quieted, even after silence returned. Instead of stepping back, he pressed his lips to her hair, lingering, breathing her in as if to remind himself she was still his. She lifted her face slowly, her cheeks damp, her eyes searching his. The storm in his gaze had softened, no longer wild with anger but heavy with ache and something steadier, love, bruised but unbroken. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice fragile yet clear. I was lost. I should have told you what I needed instead of running from it. His thumb brushed across her cheek, wiping away a tear. And I should have seen you. I should have never let us become strangers. His words cracked at the edges, raw but honest. For a long moment, they only stood there, their foreheads pressed together, hearts pounding in fragile sync. And then he kissed her, not with fury, not with desperation, but with tenderness that reached into the marrow of who they once were. The kiss deepened slowly, growing from apology into promise, from sorrow into renewed fire. Her fingers curled into his shirt, not to hold herself together, but to hold on to him. He cupped her face as if she were something breakable, yet irreplaceable. When they finally pulled apart, their breaths mingling in the dim light, he spoke softly. No more secrets. No more silence. If we're going to love, it has to be real. All of it. She nodded, a small smile trembling through her tears. Real, she repeated, as if sealing the vow with her voice. His hands slipped down to entwine with hers, and together they walked back through the house. No longer two shadows colliding, but two souls choosing to move forward. The brokenness wasn't gone, but in its place stood something truer, a bond reforged in fire, steadier than before. The screen fades on their intertwined hands, their silhouettes framed against the soft glow of a lamp, leaving the audience with the warmth of reconciliation and the lingering sweetness of love rediscovered.